Margaret Thatcher, one of the most famous and controversial figures in world politics, left an indelible mark on the history of the United Kingdom and the world. She became the first woman to hold the office of Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and is known for her iron will, tough policies, and reforms that changed the country. However, her life and career were not without scandals, criticism, and heated debates. Early life. Margaret Hilda Roberts was born on October 13, 1925, in Grantham, Lincolnshire, into a family of grocers. Raised under strict and difficult conditions during the Great Depression, she learned the importance of hard work and self-reliance from an early age. Her father, Alfred Roberts, was a local businessman and political activist, while her mother, Beatrice, was a housewife. These values later became the foundation of Thatcher's political philosophy. Margaret studied at Oxford University, where she studied chemistry and became the first woman to be elected president of the Oxford Conservative Association. In 1951, she graduated from university and began working in the chemical industry, later shifting to a legal career and then into politics. Entering politics. Margaret Thatcher was elected to Parliament in 1959 as a candidate of the Conservative Party. She quickly established herself as a bright and determined politician. In 1970, under Edward Heath's government, Thatcher became Minister for Science, and in 1975, she was elected leader of the Conservative Party, becoming the first woman to hold that position. Her path to becoming Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was long and challenging. But in 1979, after a period of economic troubles, Margaret Thatcher was able to win the election and became the Prime Minister. She entered history as the Iron Lady due to her uncompromising political stance. Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Margaret Thatcher served as Prime Minister from 1979 to 1990, making her the longest-serving British Prime Minister of the 20th century. During her tenure, she implemented numerous reforms that radically changed the economy and society of the UK. Economic reforms. Thatcher was a proponent of market economy, free trade, and minimal government interference in the economy. She introduced a series of tough reforms aimed at reducing the public sector and liberalizing the economy. These measures included privatization of state-owned enterprises, deregulation, and tax cuts. As a result, the UK economy began to grow, but social inequality increased and unemployment rose. Conflict with trade unions. One of the most significant and painful aspects of Thatcher's tenure was her conflict with trade unions. In 1984, the so-called miners' strike began, lasting over a year and becoming one of the sharpest social conflicts in UK history. Thatcher refused to compromise with the strikers, which led to her government's victory, but also increased social tension in the country. The Falklands War. In 1982, the UK entered into a military conflict with Argentina over control of the Falkland Islands, which had been seized by Argentine forces. The military victory brought Thatcher immense popularity, bolstering her reputation as a decisive leader. This conflict became a key milestone in her career. Scandals and controversies. Margaret Thatcher's tenure was not without numerous scandals, both domestically and internationally. The Iran arms scandal. In the 1980s, during the Iran-Iraq War, the UK was accused of selling weapons to Iran, which caused public protests and criticism from the opposition. According to some sources, Thatcher's government actively engaged with Iran despite international sanctions. While accusations of illegal arms sales were never proven, the scandal tarnished her reputation. Northern Ireland policy. The conflict in Northern Ireland was also one of the most controversial aspects of her rule. Thatcher took a hardline stance against terrorism and radical groups such as the IRA, Irish Republican Army. In 1981, several dramatic events occurred, including the hunger strike of prisoners, during which 10 people died. Many criticized Thatcher for her refusal to grant political status to the prisoners, which worsened the situation in Northern Ireland. Personal attacks. Thatcher's opponents also accused her of creating huge social divides and worsening the living conditions of the working class. Her critics referred to her economic reforms as harsh and uncompromising policies that placed the interests of the wealthy above the needs of the poor. Thatcher became a symbol of the British elite and drew sharp criticism from the working class. Resignation and legacy. After a defeat in the 1990 leadership election and her ambiguous position on the European Union, Margaret Thatcher resigned as Prime Minister. Her successor was John Major. In her final years, she continued to be active on the international stage, giving lectures and writing memoirs. Margaret Thatcher passed away on April 8, 2013, at the age of 87. Legacy. Margaret Thatcher's legacy remains highly controversial. Her supporters argue that she saved the UK from economic collapse, transformed the country into a global economic power, and restored national pride. However, critics point to the destruction of social infrastructure, the rise of inequality, and the deepening of social conflicts. Thatcher remains a symbol not only of British politics, but also of the global changes of the late 20th century. Her time in office and personality continue to be the subject of fierce debates, and her reputation remains a hotly contested topic among both politicians and the general public.